Hello and welcome to Comedy Corner. My name is Mike Preston. I'm here with the lovely Marge Tackes. We're a couple of, what are we, a couple of professional, I guess we're professional stand-up comics because we've been paid for comedy for a number of years.
Right.
Okay, and we're here to talk about comedy, how to get started, how we got started, our experience, our ideas, our theories, all that kind of stuff. We both started around approximately the same time, right?
What year? I started in 1989.
Okay, yeah, I started right around then too, I think. In Chicago.
Right. Oh, there were tons of open mic nights at the time.
The comedy boom was on during
the 80s.
It was
right at the tail end of the boom.
Yeah, yeah. But there were clubs. There were how many clubs in Chicago? There were Zanies, the Improv, the Funny Firm.
Yeah.
Assorted one-nighters. There were 2 Funny Bones out in the burbs. There a lot of one-nighters in and around the Chicago area. A bunch of clubs up in Milwaukee. So there was a lot more opportunities back then than there are now. So where did you first do stand-up?
My first time up was at a little bar called the Roxy. It was run by a couple of former folk singers who decided to have like a talent night. So you would have musicians and you would have comics. And my first time was great because I had, 20-some years of all this material built up in me. So my first 2 or 3 times was great. And then all of a sudden I got down to the job of it, where you have to go up when you're not feeling good or it's not your crowd or whatever. Now, where was yours?
Let's. Now, your first time was great.
Yeah.
Had you prepared? Had you rehearsed at home? How did you get ready to do your first stand-up comedy set?
I was a bartender, and mostly had a lot of drunk customers and handled drunks, and through that, it was practically like doing stand-up. So I just kind of transitioned it to a stage with a microphone. Instead of feeding off the drunks, I just kind of, took what I had already been doing for a couple of years and getting big tips, and I thought there's money in being a bitch. So I just transferred it to stage.
So your persona was kind of worked out before you had to fill in the blanks with material. You knew which direction you were going to go in?
I tried one. To be honest, when I started, I would go up no makeup, in sweats, because as a woman, you didn't want to feel that, you didn't want any of that stuff like you're there to meet guys or anything. So I tried that persona, but I had a very harsh attitude, and somebody had suggested, why don't you dress up and look opposite of how you're talking? And that did, after a couple of months, I tried that, and that worked better than looking like a pissed off dyke. I went with the kind of naughty secretary thing.
Although the pissed off dyke
did work for a few girls.
Yeah, I mean, I could name names, but I won't.
But I'm not a pissed off dyke, so it wasn't really who I was. So.
You like guys. Yeah, my first time on stage was at the Funny Bone in Schaumburg, no longer open. Coincidence? I don't know. But they had an open mic night every, I believe it was every Monday night. So I had memorized my little 7-minute hunk, and I would go there every Monday. And the guys hosting the open mic were Steve and Leo, who went on to write the movie The Santa Claus and all the sequels to that. They're multimillionaires right now. But they hosted the open mic at that time. And they would only let their friends on stage. And I didn't know these guys from a hole in the ground. So I would go every week all ready to get up and nothing. So finally one week those guys had an actual paying gig or something, and the guy who was there at the time, Bert Borth, put me on stage.
You on.
Yeah, so it went well. I got to say, if it hadn't gone well the first time, I doubt that I would have gone back for seconds. So.
I don't know. I think if you have the drive to do it, one bad show isn't going to deter you.
Could be.
And you had the drive to do it.
If that first show is bad, I can take no for an answer. But it went well. The second time went well. The second time was at Who's on First in Elmhurst, right down the road over on North Avenue. Yeah, also closed. I've got a track record. Don't tell me I don't. And that went well, too. It was the third time, which again was at Who's on First, where they just stared at me like, what are you talking about? And then I thought, okay, it is a job.
Yeah, now you got to figure out exactly who you're going to be on stage. What do you do if a crowd isn't digging you? Like, what did you learn to do?
What did I learn to do?
Yeah, how do you adjust?
I have an attitude of hostility anyway.
Yeah.
So at that point, I know I can't salvage it for everyone in the room, but I can salvage it for me. So I'm going to enjoy myself regardless. and if they aren't digging it, I'm going to have fun with them not digging it. Again, I don't recommend that for everybody. A lot of comics want everyone to be happy in the room. I don't really,
Yeah.
I think I got to be happy before the audience is happy, really. I don't know. That's just kind of a one of my theories. There's no rules. That's another
No,
thing
that's,
I found
you know,
out.
we could sit here and talk all day about it, but I don't think there's the same rules for any two people. When I started, everybody said, don't be dirty.
Right.
And I'm still doing it, while some of those...
What was your response?
Fuck
you.
I'm not trying to be dirty. That's just my sense of humor,
Yeah.
so I got to go with what I know, and
Yeah.
that is filth.
Yeah.
So that was my niche.
At the time we both started, the Seinfeld craze was getting started as far as Seinfeld stand-up.
Yeah.
And there were a million little Seinfeld clones all
Yeah.
over the city of Chicago. There were all the guys with the sport jacket with the sleeves rolled
up, T-shirt underneath.
And the tennis shoes going, have you seen this? And I'm thinking, and there were millions of them, you know, and you didn't really have to be original. And I found out then that the audiences have been kind of trained to get the cadence more so than the material
Right.
at times. If you're going, da-da-da-da-da-da, there
Right.
is a certain percentage of people who will laugh no matter what you're saying.
Right.
So-
Even when I found when you get heckled, if you say something quick enough and you really make it sound like you're slamming, they will believe you just slammed them. I mean,
Right,
and you
right.
could really be saying, you know, if somebody heckles you, well, you sound like you got a rose up your ass. And I'm like, you know, and in your head you're going, that makes no sense.
Yeah,
But you just have to not be shaken by somebody interrupting
Right,
you. And
right.
you don't get off point, you slam them and you move on.
And I also learned that comedy is very selective. I used to think funny is universal, and what's funny to one person
Yeah.
is going to be funny to everybody. That is not the case at all. I remember seeing a lot of the new guys, the open micers, who were going for the weird, edgy stuff, and the people preferred the Seinfeld clones.
Right.
You know, they wanted stuff they could understand. I remember seeing a guy who brought one of those talking teddy bears up, a Teddy Ruxpin.
Yeah.
And he had recorded it like a junkie. It was jonesing for a fix. And then he pulls out a hypodermic on stage and he's shooting up the bear, and the bears go, oh, yeah, that's good. And I was on the floor in the back
Right.
laughing, and the audience was terrified.
There's a lesson. If the only people laughing when you're doing your material is the comics in the back, you need to change your material, because
Yeah.
they're not going to pay to see you.
No.
You have to make the people in the audience laugh.
Comics are not going to open up a club and pay people to be clever. No.
They're not your friend in the back when they're laughing at you bombing. That doesn't mean you're shooting over the room. That means you're just entertaining your enemy.
So when you had developed your stage persona and you were going to be this character, did you then start going over material? What inspired you, to write material or get new stuff?
Just the stuff that I would end up joking around with my friends
Okay.
is what I would transfer to stage. And it is, you get a group of women together, and we're mostly going to talk about sex, at least anybody I'm going to hang out with. So then I would take stories that people would tell me, and I would transfer that into my act. So I think it's your personal experience that you can take, because you're not, don't write about stuff you don't know, because
Right.
say you are doing a joke and you get interrupted and it takes you off in a different direction. If you're being something you're totally not, you're going to get lost,
Yeah.
and they're going to know that you're fake. So you have to stick to kind of a bait. I mean, you can exaggerate your character, but you can't completely make it foreign to you, because you're going to get found out.
Life experience is good.
Yeah.
I at the time I started, I was employed in social work, and I would write
Yeah.
a lot of material about that and about the crazies and stuff like that. There were also guys who just coming out of college or around that age who didn't really have any life experience.
Right.
And they were writing about, politics and stuff, and do you know what you're talking about? And it didn't really come off as genuine. So.
I find nowadays I've seen some open micers who they want to be that shocking, hard-ass kind of guy, like Ron White, who's got a very successful character. Well, he's really lived that. That's why it's funny when he's doing it. A 21-year-old talking about Hard Knocks when the worst thing that happened to him was he got a Jetta instead of a Porsche for graduation it's not gonna sell. People are not gonna relate to you.
I saw a new kid recently who was talking about the trials and tribulations of living with his parents.
Yeah.
And that was good. It was well done, it was original, and it was real. So
And people can relate to that. There's a lot of people still living with their parents.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of times people ask me, and I'm curious, when was like